Hello, 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 beautiful divine women. Welcome to today's show where we're going to be talking all about transforming your menstrual problems into spiritual insights. In the Divine Feminine Wellness, we are talk all about the healing and transformation of your feminine body, mind, and spirit so that you can learn to create the prosperous and abundant life you deserve in all areas of your health, of your wealth, relationships, and cultivating a deep foundation of self-love so that you feel confident, radiant, sexy, and beautiful and become the radiant woman and goddess that you're meant to be. And today we're talking all about sacred womb care and understanding menstrual problems. My name is Oshun, and I am the founder of Divine Feminine Wellness. And I am a Divine Feminine spiritual guide, certified transformational life coach, board certified holistic health practitioner, certified Ayurvedic nutritional consultant. So a lot of my work has Vedic principles. That's why I'm mentioning that. And I'm also have lots of studies in women's hormones, women's menstrual health, and women's menstrual health coaching as well. I have 2,000 other certifications in helping women understand their menstrual cycle. You can go on my website, www.divinefeminineworld, to learn more about it. But honestly, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that you receive something here that you connect to, that if you use these tools, you can see how life transformative they can be. And so I wanted to come on here and talk about this today because I have worked with a lot of women on helping them to restore a healthy menstrual cycle. And there are many things as when we need to consider when we have an imbalanced menstrual cycle, what it may be trying to tell us or speak to us about. So it's not uncommon. A lot of women have various menstrual problems today, whether they have painful periods, whether they have heavy bleeding, whether they have fibroids or womb disease such as fibroids or endometriosis, or maybe they have irregular cycles or suffering from infertility. There's a number of reproductive disharmonies within a womb space that women can encounter. Now, if you're one of these women, you're not alone because many women are on this journey. And our menstrual cycles, what we don't understand as women, and what I want to offer insight into today as we go into the video, is that these symptoms that we may be experiencing, a lot of times we are taught, or a lot of the clients I've worked with when they went to their doctors, they were either ignored and tell them that it's just normal. Um, and it's because our modern medical system leaves out a big part of women's bodies, which is really a lot of knowledge that our ancestors knew, and a lot of it is divine feminine spiritual wisdom, which is why in my teachings I combine divine feminine spirituality along with holistic wellness and science as well, because the two need to marry each other in order for you to really learn how to heal and transform yourself, right? So we do need the science and the knowledge of the body, but we also need to understand the spiritual and emotional things that are going on in our bodies as well, so that we get a holistic view. And so, what we are taught in our modern science world today is to just look at the symptoms and only look at the physical. But in holistic wellness, but particularly when it comes to the menstrual cycle, women don't understand that these symptoms and the pain they may be experiencing are a sacred invitation from your body to go within, to listen deeper to your inner knowledge, to reconnect to the sacred cycles of femininity. As women, our bodies are cyclical, right? And our hormones are constantly going up and down and changing. And with these different changes come different feminine powers, I like to call them. So every week you have a new aspect of yourself as a woman that becomes evident based on your hormonal cycles. And you go through shifts and changes emotionally as well. And so many times when I work with clients, when they're coming to me with menstrual imbalance, it is because they don't know how to work with the flow of these sacred feminine principles that are ancestral knowledge that have been left out of our medical system. That is needs to be taught in order for women to be fully radiant and fully healthy. So I invite you to think about your menstrual cycle in a deeper way to understand that it is, I call it a report card of not just your physical health, but your emotional, spiritual, and mental health as well, because it really is. And when you learn how to work with your menstrual cycle and get some of the spiritual insights and maybe teaching you about yourself and your body, it becomes an ally. And these symptoms, no longer become an enemy, but a messenger. So I want you to start thinking of your body as a messenger and your menstrual cycle, which is not just your period. I want to talk about, I'm not going to go too more into that, but I have something I'm going to share with you at the end where you can go, well, I'm going to go more in depth. And you can, a free workshop that I have for you, I'll share that at the end. Um, but it's important for you to understand that your menstrual cycle is a whole cycle. So whether it's the whole month, some women's cycles may be a little bit longer than a month, but it's a full cycle. It's not just the time that you bleed, like most people may tell you. That is one part of the cycle, but you can get symptoms throughout your whole cycle, and the bleeding is just one part of it. But it's an actual cycle, and it's a cycle of your womanhood. It's a cycle of your creativity, which is why there are spiritual and emotional things that should not be left out. And I love to teach this knowledge to women because I had to learn it myself as a young woman. So we're going to be talking about the ancestral knowledge of the four bodies of humanity, which is part of Vedic astrology. Again, not astrology, sorry, Vedic um, knowledge. I don't know where I said astrology, but Vedic knowledge that I have studied and understand, and is part of holistic wellness, why we even call it holistic. We're also going to be talking about, you're going to see me look down at my notes, by the way, just so you're aware of that. So we're also going to be talking about what some of the menstrual problems or common menstrual problems may be trying to tell you. And then we're going to talk about some practical tools and tips that you can do today to connect more deeply with yourself, more deeply with that inner wisdom as a woman. And when you're trying to bring balance to your cycle, and it's not just working by you taking over-the-counter medication or prescribed medication. Sometimes we need to go deeper than that. So first of all, I want to talk about the four bodies of humanity. And this is Vedic knowledge. It's not just in Vedic. And if you haven't heard of Ayurveda or Vedic knowledge, it is an it's an Indian medicinal system that is thousands of years old, that is based on our inherent connection to nature as humanity. We're not separate from nature. Particularly women's bodies. Our bodies are cyclical, just like the moon, just like the earth seasons. We're cyclical beings. And so within our own bodies, this is within us as well as women. And so Ayurveda, it's a whole Indian medicinal system that not only talks about women's health, but so many things in humanity's growth and evolution. And one of them is understanding the four bodies of humanity. This is also an Eastern Chinese philosophy, or in their system as well, right? And the acupuncturist system will share this knowledge as well. So it's not foreign language that I'm teaching you, but I just have a strong background in Ayurveda. So first of all, we have to understand that we have a physical body that we can see and touch, right? We have an emotional body which governs our feelings, our emotions, how we're feeling. We have a mental body, which is all about our thoughts, our ideas. And then we have our spiritual body, which is our connection to divinity. And all four of these bodies make up the whole of who we are. And so when we look at our organs, right, when I was studying Ayurveda, we have to understand that our organs exist on a physical level. They also govern emotional aspects of ourselves. They also govern mental aspects of ourselves and spiritual aspects of ourselves. So when a person is having a disease or disharmony, it is never just treat the physical symptom. No, it is, by the time it reaches physical, that means spiritually, mentally, emotionally, you have already exhausted some part of yourself that you haven't been paying attention to, because physical is the last place where the disease shows up. And this is common knowledge in the holistic arena, which is why when you come to a holistic practitioner, such as myself, we look at the whole of you. It's not going to just be look at the symptom, give you some herbs, and then you go, no, we need to know what's going on in your life. What else is going on around you? Because this is all a part of healing and transformation. And these are things that you can learn and stay with you for a lifetime and pass it down to the next person. So my teachings are all on divine feminine spirituality, very big on ancestral knowledge and the indigenous people of the land. So if this is something that appeals to you, you definitely can benefit from the things that I teach. If not, have an open mind and see where it takes you. So Now that you have that foundational, I mean very foundational knowledge of the four bodies of humanity, you need to understand that your womb or your uterus, which is the physical organ, exists on a physical level, it exists on an emotional, spiritual, and mental level as well, right? And you have other glands in the body that support and govern your uterus. One of the glands is just known as the pituitary gland, which is here, which is also another feminine energy center. I spoke about it in one of my videos. I think it's the video on releasing toxic habits and self-sabotage. If you go on that video, I talk about the three feminine energy centers in the body. And right in here, the pituitary gland is one of them, and it also um, is a part of governing your uterus and your hormonal functions on a monthly basis. And so now that you have an understanding that your womb is not just physical, but every part of your body exists on these four different levels, right? You will understand now that when you have a physical symptom, you should now begin to start thinking about what's going on with me emotionally, what's going on with me mentally, and what's going on with me spiritually, right? This is how you need to begin to start looking at your menstrual cycle and the symptoms that you're having, because your body is the messenger. Again, by the time it shows up to you on a physical level, you have already been ignoring the physical, excuse me, the mental, spiritual, and emotional side of yourself. You've been ignoring it. And so now your body has to wake you up, and it wakes you up through these symptoms that you're having. And so this is what holistic wellness is all about. So let's talk about some of the symptoms you might be experiencing and what messages may be coming from them. And this is not an exhaustive list. I'm just going to be talking about three or four, symptoms and one womb disease. But we can probably go deeper in another video if you want me to. Just leave a message in the comments. And I'm more than willing to share that information with you. So, first of all, if you are a woman who has been having cramps, a possible deeper meaning you may want to look at is that when you think of cramp, you think of something contracting and squeezing, right? Contracting. And so your uterus is not relaxed. It's not relaxed. So you may want to think about, are you holding on to some old emotions too tightly? Holding on to old pains? Are you being resistant to change in your life? Are you holding on to the way you're being, knowing that it's not benefiting you, whatever area of your life that may be, knowing that it's not benefiting you, but you keep holding on too tightly? Or maybe you need to release some things, past habits, or, ways of being that are not supporting you, right? So maybe your cramps are trying to tell you that. Look at that a little bit deeper and go into that. Perhaps if you are suffering with irregular cycles, think about your life right now. Do you have a life of balance? Is your life out of balance? Are you in sync? Are you in tune? Are you getting enough rest? Or are you not? Are you paying attention to your desires and what really brings you joy and lights you up? Are you really in sync with yourself? Or are you living a life that's irregular? Right? And if you are heavy bleeding, one thing I have noticed when I work with clients with heavy bleeding, it is vice versa. It's either heavy bleeding or the opposite, not enough blood, too light blood, right? So some women bleed heavily, and then some women go to the other end of the spectrum through their symptoms. They bleed lightly. So for me, I know what I'm getting ready to share with you that when I bleed too lightly, I know for me, my blood doesn't go heavy. My blood goes light. So I know to pay attention to what's going on in my life when I notice that I'm bleeding lightly, and maybe I haven't been paying attention to myself as much that month myself with my self-care practices, which does happen because we live in a world that does demand a lot of us. And it is better to have the tools to bring yourself back to balance naturally than to not have the tools at all. Nobody gets it perfect. If you ever meet someone who is spiritual and tells you they're perfect, they're lying to you, because that's how we know how to teach, because we have to teach our own medicine, right? What I share with you is a medicine I had learned myself and practice myself and still have to practice because we're human. We're human. So heavy bleeding, a reason why I'm saying that, because heavy bleeding, I notice can go both ways. Women that I've worked with who have heavy bleeding, I have noticed that they are giving over their energy um, over to things that are draining them. It's like taking the life force out of them. And it can go the same way with women who bleed short. I know for me, when I have overgiven or overextended my life force and energy to things, I actually go the opposite way. I go lighter, and it can go either way. But think about it in terms of heavy bleeding. Are you giving over too much of your energy, too much of yourself to things externally? Are you pushing yourself too hard? It could be people, it could be projects, whatever it is. It can even be overexertion of exercise, and that's a common one for women. They exercising too hard because they have a male trainer who doesn't understand women's bodies, and they're teaching you how to train like a man, but they don't understand women's bodies are very different, and you should not train the same way throughout the month. You actually need to train cyclically, but maybe I'll do another video about cyclical wisdom. So also with heavy bleeding, it's not as common that these women may be holding on to old beliefs or old traumas. That they need to let go of. So think about that if you are someone who's heavy bleeding. It could be something else. And I'm going to talk to you in a moment. How do you tap within into your own knowledge to see what your symptoms may be speaking to you? I'm just giving you some examples of things I have noticed when I work with clients, and then some research on this subject as well. Um, I want to bring up fibroids because that is a common problem, especially for women of brown skin. Fibroids is very common. And Dr. Christiane Northrup, who is a very well-known gynecologist who actually teaches a lot of holistic wellness in her practice, right? There are doctors who are privy to the physical, spiritual, and emotional bodies and mental bodies of who we are, and understand that it's all connected. And in her book, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, she speaks about fibroids being connected to giving your creativity or feeding your energy into something that's not going anywhere. So I want you to think about that, because in my work with women who have fibroids, I have actually noticed that to be true. These women are feeding something, whether it's a relationship, a way of being, that is completely stagnant and it's not going anywhere. And they keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. And if you know anything about fibroids, it is a stagnation disease. So it's a disease where things are not flowing, it's stagnant, and the cells clump up because everything's not flowing. And I have noticed myself in working with women who have fibroids, there's some area of their life that they're feeding continuously that is not bringing any growth, and they just haven't learned how to break away from that area. Usually, in my experience, it has to do with relationships. They're usually feeding some sort of relationship that isn't growing, and it's draining them. So these are some of the symptoms that these are some of the spiritual meanings behind what those symptoms may be trying to tell you. And as a woman, you have to reflect on this yourself to know what is really going on. And so I want to talk about, how do you connect to your cycle more on a monthly basis so you can connect to your own inner wisdom to know what the answers may be. Because I always teach my clients that no one knows you better than you. You have to learn to develop this relationship with your body, and it's not going to happen overnight, because as women, we have been taught to disconnect from our bodies. And be external. So we are taught to please everyone, put ourselves last, take care of everybody, and we're the last. We don't listen to ourselves anymore. We are hyperly external. And when we're hyper external, that is total masculine energy. And there's nothing wrong with masculine energy. We need it to get things done. But when it's to the point where I see it as with women now, it is causing exhaustion, burnout, and destroying our bodies and our wombs, and our cycles are screaming out to us, please stop, right? Please stop. Pay attention. Pay attention. And so that's why you start getting all these symptoms, because your body's trying to talk to you. So how do you begin listening to your cycle on a monthly basis? Well, one of the things that you want to start doing is develop a habit of tracking your cycle. And in my course, Sacred Cycle, 7 weeks to healing your menstrual cycle and cyclical living, which I'll share more information about momentarily. I go into teaching you how to track your cycle, because this is how you learn to listen to your body, see what's going on with you that time of the month, and understand what your symptoms may be trying to tell you. Now, keep in mind, because your cycle is not just one part, which is the bleeding phase. You can have symptoms throughout your whole cycle, and you need to learn how to listen to them. Your emotions are speaking to you, your mental space is speaking to you. All of this is going on, and I teach all of this in my program. And it's really wonderful to know your body and yourself this way, because when you do this, it's like you unlock the sacred feminine powers within you. And girl, let me tell you, talk about creativity opening up when you tap in. You like, I work with my cycle religiously, so I know when to do projects, when not to do projects. I know when my creative juices are flowing. I know when I have the most energy, when I should not be doing. I know myself that well because I've been doing this for years. And this is the sacred wisdom of the ancestral mothers that has been thrown away, that we need to re-remember as women. So, anyway, how to connect to your cycle. One of the first things you want to do is, like I said, start looking at cycle tracking every month, noticing what's going on yourself on a daily basis, your moods, how you're feeling, um, and taking good care of yourself. The next thing that you want to do is you want to start eating foods that nourish your cycle and balance your hormones, right? You want to eat foods that are feeding your cells, not foods that are draining your cells and taken from you. Because most women who have improper menstrual cycles, not only are they engaging with people and places and careers that are draining them, they're also engaging with foods that are draining them and that are not nourishing. And the pattern is just there. So start also with your foods besides cycle tracking, eating one hormone nourishing foods. The next thing you want to do is you want to do a womb meditation, and that's connecting, actually connecting with your uterus and also your heart space, because your heart is all about your emotions and feelings as well. So breathing in, and on a daily basis, I recommend that you do this. I like to do 7 breaths. So you breathe in for 7, you hold, and then you exhale for 7. You keep doing that for 7 times until you slow down your breathing and you connect with your womb and you listen to your womb. Yes, you listen to your uterus, you listen to your body. When I was studying Ayurveda, I studied with an Ayurvedic doctor, and we did that every class. We had to sit and breathe and listen to our organs. There was in Ayurveda, when they are helping clients heal, right? They part of their prescription is nature, right? Here in the West, the prescription is just pills, but not in Ayurveda. It is your foods, it is your supplements, and it's also connecting to nature, whether it's a particular oil, whether it's a particular stone. It's embedded in the earth, it's embedded in Mother Earth. She heals us, right? So breathing into your womb, connecting back to your body and listening to it is natural. It's a part of nature. So connect to your womb, listen to it. Your womb has a voice. She has a lot to say that you probably don't know about. And when you first start listening to her, you might hear a lot of pain, and it might be some tears shed, and that's okay. You need to become aware, because that's where the healing begins. The next thing I encourage you to do is that after you've done your meditation, you listen, you bring out your journal, and I call it a moon journal, because as women, our wombs are connected to the moon, the sacred cycle of the moon, which is 28 days. Most menstrual cycles are 28 days, some are longer, but it's cyclical, right? We wax and wane just like the moon. Our hormones rise and fall, right? And so journal on a daily basis, or during that week of your bleed, or the week before your weed is, excuse me, your bleed is coming, especially before the week of your period is coming, in that premenstrual phase. You really want to take some time to get things going, because you're not crazy during your premenstrual phase. There's actually a lot of power and insight you get during your menstrual phase, but we're not taught to think about it. So I'm teaching you, get out your journal daily, but especially right before your period comes, your menstrual, the bleeding phase comes. And the next thing and the last thing you want to do is, when you are on that bleeding phase, and even the week before, a few days before your cycle comes on, get some rest. Most women in today's modern world are pushing themselves way too damn hard when they're on their cycle. And we are taught to push and push and push, not realizing that when we're on our cycles, our hormones have dropped to their lowest point, okay, and we are exhausted, and you need to rest. And so if you have a job that's demanding and you can't get out of that job right now, hopefully you study with me long enough, you learn how to get out of that, because I have left 6-figure jobs, and now I live life completely on my own terms, my own schedule, and I can sit in my feminine cyclical wisdom. And that is such a blessing that I want every woman to have. And you can get out of the rat race of a job that's destroying you. Even though you may look successful on the outside, I have done all of it. There's nothing like having your own sacred time to sit in your own feminine rhythm and cycle. So you want to rest. You want to, if you have a high power job that week, you want to try to do most of your projects the week before, the days before, get them done and rest. And if you can, call out on the first day of your cycle. If you can, you'll know better. I used to call out the first day of my cycle, or I would sit in my office somewhere and I would just not be bothered because by that time I knew what our cycles were about and how to honor it. Now, it did conflict with the outer world to eventually where I just had to let that phase of my life go to where I am now, where I can live in tune with my own rhythm. And it's a beautiful experience. And so it's what I would like to share with you as well. So, what I want to do is, first of all, if you've liked this video, please subscribe and share this information with as many women as you can so we can learn how to listen to our bodies in a different way and honor it, honor our cycles. Okay. The next thing is that I want you to, or I invite you to try my free workshop or repair your period. And in this workshop, I'm going to be teaching you more. I'm going to go more in depth into the cycle so you understand the phases of the cycle, more in depth about the symptoms. And I think I give about 7 or 8 powerful divine feminine tools that you can start using right now to start bringing balance to your cycle. And it's amazing. It's a free workshop, about 45 minutes. You have access to it for a lifetime. And I think you'll really enjoy it. That workshop, when I have taught it on video or when I have taught it live in women's groups, there's so much insight that we haven't been taught about our own bodies. And in order for you to really radiate in your feminine power and create that joyful harmonious life that you deserve, you must be embodied. Because that's what the feminine is all about, being in the body. We're not trying to transcend. We are being in our earthly experience, connected to Mother Earth, bringing in harmony, joy, and love through us and sending that out into our communities and into the world. And so sign up for that workshop because you're going to get a lot of information out of that. And then if you want to go further, there is my program, Sacred Cycle, a 7-week journey to healing your menstrual cycle and cyclical living. And in that program, I go much deeper into the wisdom of the menstrual cycle, much deeper into the phases, spiritually and emotionally, what's going on. Not only how do you restore a balanced cycle, but then how do you use the powers of the cycle to create an abundant life? So we go even more deeper. So you can find out the links to both of them, start out free, or if you want to start out with the Sacred Cycle, class actually begins the first week in May. And so I would love to have you apply to work with me in that program. It is going to be taught live, and it would be great to have sisterhood. So share this video, check out my free resources, or come and join us in the program. Thank you. Have an amazing day, and remember that you are a powerful, radiant, beautiful, divine woman. Bye.